Well, shalom again, everybody. This is take 3 of this video. I keep saying that CV words, and I know that they'll want to delete the video or put some kind of curse on the channel because I try to speak the same things that the president can speak and the news can speak, but others that speak against these things, they are submitted to all sorts of horrible things. Anyway, what I'd like to do is get on here with Jeremiah chapter 23. I do want to bring out that I believe that one of these things visited me, and maybe not, but I believe so because the hair stood on the end of my head, like I stuck my tongue in a light socket or something, all the hair on my whole body just poofed right up. I got the goose chills, and it's something that takes place when you're around something that's just not right. I was laying on my bed over here, my knees in the air. I was laying on my back sleeping, and it's been years since I've slept on my back. My knees were up in the air, and I felt something like 3 times, and it jarred me, but I didn't open my eyes and I didn't move because I knew nobody could be here. Nobody had the key to my apartment or anything. So I just put it off and said, well, I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to keep sleeping. And about 2 or 3 minutes later, another on my right knee, and I opened my eyes and I looked and I seen nothing there, and I said, if you do not love Father Yahweh through Yahshua, his righteous son, and you love Yahshua by keeping the commandments and the laws that he brings forth for us to keep, then get thee hence. But if you love our Father through his righteous Son and you keep the laws and commandments, you're welcome. And as soon as I had started saying that, the hair just went back down. I could feel whatever it was leave. So the spiritual test there in 1 Yachanan, chapter 2, verses 3 through 6, is the true spiritual test. It'll send these devils fleeing from you faster than they came in. They'll come in at you one direction, they'll flee from you in 7. Remember these things. Whenever you have these problems with these devils coming up, those that proclaim that they know the truth, especially these lying preachers, give them the spiritual test. 1 Yachanan, chapter 2, verse 3 through 6. They'll flee. Believe you me, even flesh and blood preachers will want to flee. They don't want to stand there when you say, well, you say you know him, you keep his commandments. Well, no, we aren't to keep his commandments. If we do, we didn't. Well, that's what it says right here in Scripture. After our King died and was resurrected, his disciples wrote this and put it in what they call the alleged New Testament, volume 2 of the Holy Scriptures, Mr. Preacher. And it says, if you know him, you keep his commandments. Because if you don't keep his commandments, then you're a liar and there's no truth in you. And the devils inside those preachers, them lying preachers, will cause them to flee because they don't want no part of the truth. Use it. I'm telling you, it works like nothing else you've ever tried. Don't be putting salt in the corners of your house or anything. All that's doing is giving a sacrifice and an offering for the devils to come in. Don't be burning the sage to cleanse the house. When you do that, you offer the demons and the devils passage into your house. Don't have any pork or unclean things. Don't break the laws and commandments. And for the most part, they'll stay away. But they will come and try to torment you. They'll come and try to catch you off guard. But if you hit them with the spiritual test, Please look at the videos that I've made that bring this out. Even Joel Osteen there, you know, he's a liar. If you brought these things up to him, he'd have to stop talking to you. He would flee. He really will flee. But anyway, Yeremiyah speaks about these things. He says here, Yeremiyah 23:18, "For who hath stood in the counsel of Yahweh, and hath perceived and heard his word? Who hath marked his word and heard it?" Marking something makes it stand out. It's written on your inward parts. You're doing this if you're keeping the laws and commandments. If you're obeying the every word, which is our king now, he became the every living word. If you're doing this, then you're the one it's speaking about here in Yeremiyah. It's a question, but it's talking about you in these last days. Watch. "Behold, the whirlwind of Yahweh is gone forth in fury, even a grievous whirlwind. It shall fall grievously upon the head of the wicked. The wicked do not keep the commandments." What is righteousness? It's the opposite of wicked. Wicked is the opposite of righteousness. What is righteousness? Deuteronomy 6 verse 25. That's right. "For it will be righteousness for you and for me if we keep his commandments." That's what righteousness is. When you do not keep his commandments, you become wicked. And that's what this whirlwind is going to fall grievously upon, is the head of the wicked. "The anger of Yahweh shall not return until he has executed, until he has performed the thoughts of his heart." In the latter days, right now, my friends, right now, this very moment, we're living in these latter days. But we still have time to do this learning, and we're going to learn all things. It says, "You shall consider it perfectly. You shall understand it perfectly." And that's what's coming upon us. If you put your heart and your mind and your soul and your might and every fiber you have of your DNA into loving our Father. If you love our Father, you're not going to call him Baal, and you're not going to call him El and Elohim. You're not going to call him Adonai and all these other names of the deities of the Phoenicians and the Canaanite pantheons. Even Nimrod's son that he had from marrying his own mother and having relations with her, bringing forth from her womb a child they called Tammuz, and his name was also known as Adonai, and his mark, his signet, was the crucifix. You don't want these things in your life. These ones did abominations to our Father. Nimrod built the Tower of Babel, and Yahweh, knocked it down. "But in the latter days you shall understand it perfectly. I have not sent these prophets, yet they ran. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied." There was a prophet here they claimed to be a prophet. He wasn't no prophet at all. He called on God and Lord and everything, and the Jesus, as he was bringing out all these things. I mean, even Nostradamus, Nostradamus read the scriptures, and then he would look into a pot of burning coals, and he would go into a trance, and he would come up with his own ideas, his own dreams about what the scriptures, the prophecies were saying. And so he wrote out his own description. And people even today say, "Oh, look, man, Nostradamus said this stuff, man. Look at this thing. He said this is coming." And, well, yeah, I know it doesn't actually say that, but just open your mind. Well, a lot of people open their mind so much their brain falls out on the floor or something. I don't know, because the things Nostradamus spoke, there are things that the prophets had written that he elaborated on, embellished upon, while he was in a drug-induced state looking into his coals of fire. These ones are false prophets. There's many things he spoke and hasn't come to pass, and most things won't. Yahweh said, I have not sent these prophets, yet they ran. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. And he's speaking about every preacher on every corner of every church, of every religion. They're out there prophesying. They're out there speaking as if they can give you some sort of paradise, even here on earth. Oh, just meditate. Open yourself for the demons to come in to tickle your fancy the way that you want it to be tickled. They'll possess you. If you're not possessed by Holy Spirit, you're possessed by the devil. And the demons are going to come in and have a feast with you, where you should be keeping the Feast of Tabernacle, or the Feast of Unleavened Bread right now, eating unleavened bread every day. He says, but if they had stood in my counsel, who? These prophets that he didn't even send, the ones that ran. He says, but if they stood in my counsel and had caused my people to hear my words, to hear of Yahshua, not the Jesus, not the Baal. We went through this in the last video and the one before too. Baal is the son of El, the son of God. Baal is the Lord. Strong's Concordance 1168 in the Hebrew. The word 1168 is Baal equals Lord. And the Greeks didn't have capital letters. So everything was in lowercase when they wrote it. Where you see this capital letter B here, that was added. It would have been a small letter B. Everything here, even the letter I, for as in I or me, it would have been lowercase. They didn't have uppercase letters in the Greek. But if they had stood in my counsel and had caused my people to hear my words, then they should have turned them from their evil way, from breaking the laws and the commandments, and from the evil, the breaking in laws and commandments of their doings. Am I not a father at hand, saith Yahweh, and not a father afar off? He's everywhere. He's in everything. Can any hide himself in secret places that I shall not see him, says Yahweh? Do not I fill heaven and earth? Says it just shows he is in every single thing. If you took a piece of metal and you put it under a magnifying glass or a microscope that was great enough to really look right down in there on the microscopic level, you'd be seeing these things jumping all around. Metal is only metal because of the atoms there, the frequency holding it together. The same thing as your fingers, and your skin. It's all just little atoms that are attracted to each other. Remember the Martians, when they go beep with their little disintegrator ray and things would just turn into nothing? They disintegrated the atoms, and if it's like cutting yourself and the blood comes out, while your skin is only there because of the attraction that the atoms for that skin holds it in. We're all a frequency, and you cannot hide anywhere from our Father. He's going to see it. He fills us all. He's in. From what science has said, is that every fiber of DNA, every strand, did you know if you open a cell and you took the DNA out, it's like 8 foot long? How can you get 8 foot of anything into a cell you can't even see? This is ridiculous. But our Father does it. And his name is engraved in every strand of DNA in our body. He's in every one and in everything. Even the air you breathe. Our King is there too. Can any hide himself in secret places that I cannot see him? No. If you got DNA, you're seen. Sorry, it's really humid outside. Deuteronomy 23:25. I have heard what the prophet said. Why? Because you can't hide. That prophesy lies in, and it's got this word in. And if you looked up that word, you find out the word in isn't actually in, but it means against. That prophesy lies against my name. Why would they prophesy lies in our Father's name? It makes no sense, does it? Our Father doesn't sin. He doesn't allow sin in the kingdom. And yet, those that wrote these scriptures, those that Yeremiyah has been speaking against, Isaiah said, behold, the pen, he says, behold, for you think you're wise, because you have the law. But behold, the pens of the scribes have written it false. There's many things that they wrote that are absolutely incorrect. This is one of them. That prophesy lies not in, but against my name, saying, I have dreamed, I have dreamed. What's that bring to mind? Yeah, Martin Luther King. And don't take offense. I'm not against black people. I love black people. It's just this is something that Martin Luther King brought out that most everybody knows. He said, I have dreamed, I have dreamed, I had a dream, I had a dream. And then he would bring out what he said. And he was a pretty decent man. He stood up for the rights of everybody, not just black people, but everybody. And they killed him for it. It wasn't time for these things to come out. But anyway, I have heard what the prophet said. They prophesy lies in my name, saying, I have dreamed, I have dreamed. How long shall this be in the heart of the prophets that prophesy lies? Yea, they are the prophets of the deceit of their own heart. And like our Father had said, I don't know if I got it here. Here it is, Isaiah 55, verse 8. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, says Yahweh. How long shall it be in the heart of the prophets that prophesy lies? Yea, they are the prophets of the deceit of their own heart, because their thoughts are not our Father's thoughts. They're bringing out these things. So many different sermons I've listened to growing up, pretty, sounding great and everything, but they were so far from the law. Even the jingle bells they sang in the church, and Santa's coming to town. All these things, all lies. Yeremiyah chapter 23, verse 27, which think to cause my people to forget my name by their dreams. They dream these things up, which they tell every man to his neighbor, as their fathers have forgotten my name for Baal. Now, if you didn't watch the other videos, let me show you real quick here, hopefully. Taking a little while to load up. Maybe I should. Okay. But here's the word Baal. For Baal. It's Hebrews 11:68. We'll click on that bad baby. Here you see it's Baal. But what is Baal? First definition, Baal equals Lord. Please keep in mind, the Greeks didn't have any capital letters. If you go to 2 Corinthians 4, verse 4, you'll see in there where it's got for the God of this world with a small letter G. And then later in that very same verse, it talks about the big letter G-O-D. You look to both of those words up, they're very same thing. And it also speaks of a supreme male divinity of the Phoenicians or Canaanites. These are nothing of our Heavenly Father. The Canaanites, the gods the children went a-whoring after Moshe went to sleep and entered the promised land, was the land of these Canaanites. Please don't call on Lord. Please don't call on God. When you do, you're calling on Baal. For their fathers have forgotten my name for their lords, for their gods. Verse 28, the prophet that hath a dream, let him tell a dream, and he that hath my word, let him speak my word faithfully. What is the chaff of the wheat, says Yahweh? Is not my word like as a fire, says the Father, and like a hammer that breaketh the rock in pieces? The truth, man, when you first hear it, if you're not keeping it, it sucks, because it really hurts. It knocks the tar doogies right out of you. Well, I've been doing what? And oh man, that I can't sleep with my neighbor's wife. I can't steal my neighbor's tire so I can get to work on time and forget that he had a job too he had to get to. Man, it hurts. Therefore, behold, I am against the prophets. He ain't speaking about Yeremiyah. He's not speaking about Isaiah or Hosea or, Yanar. He's speaking against these false prophets. Behold, I'm against the prophets, saith Yahweh, that steal my words, every one from his neighbor. Behold, I am against the prophets, says Yahweh, that use their tongues and say, he saith. And this is the King James Version. And the reason I'm using the King James Version is because in the New King James Version, they'll have oracle where it should have remained as burden. And you'll see that here shortly. But they make you think that it comes from the Father or from the Jesus, Oh, well, Jesus said, once saved, always saved. Well, show me in your scriptures where it says it. Well, if you know what the Jesus said, you'd see it. Craziness. But I am against the prophets, says Yahweh, that use their tongues and say, he saith, Yahweh saith, or Yahshua saith, when it really isn't, because it's from their dreams. Behold, I am against them that prophesy false dreams, saith the Father, and do tell them, and cause my people to err by their lies and their lightness. Yet I sent them not. I didn't send them out, nor commanded. I didn't even talk to them. Therefore they shall not profit this people at all. You can't get anything from them. He said earlier in the chapter, get away from those prophets. They'll make you worthless. They ain't going to make you profit at all. And when this people, or the prophet, or a priest shall ask thee, saying, what is the burden of Yahweh? Now, in the New King James Version, that word burden they took out of there and they put oracle. So it makes it sound like, like some kind of priest or something, going like this, and everyone thinking, oh wow, man, he's reverent. He's a worshiping, man. Look at him. He's got his hands or like this, Oh, look at him, man. He is so reverent and pertinent and everything. Craziness. And when this people or the prophet or a priest shall ask thee, saying, what is the burden of Yahweh? You shall say unto them, what burden? I will even forsake you, says Yahweh. You call his law a burden, he'll forsake you. And as for the prophet and the priest and the people that shall say the burden of Yahweh, I will even punish that man and his house. Thus shall ye say, every one to his neighbor, and every one to his brother, what hath the Father answered, and what hath Yahweh spoken? And the burden of Yahweh shall ye mention no more, for every man's word shall be his burden. Here it says, Matthew 12, verse 36. Now let's go with 35. A righteous man out of the righteous treasure of his heart brings forth righteous things. And an evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth evil things. It even speaks in law, that A evil man can't even do righteousness to his animals. They're going to perish with them. Matthew 12:36, but I say to you that for every idle word men shall speak, they will give account of it in the day of judgment. Everything comes out of your mouth. You're going to give an account for. If you're out there trying to preach and convert people to the Lord and to the God and the Jesus and the Adonais and the L's and the Baals that we're told to get out of our mouth, says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected my knowledge, I will also reject you from being priest for me. Because you have forgotten the law of Yahweh, I also will forget your children. That's in Hosea 4 verse 6. Yahshua says here in Matthew 12:36, but I say to you that for every idle word men shall speak, they will give account of it in the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Yahshua is speaking of these things that Yeremiyah was talking about. He's talking about, and as for the prophet and the priest, and for the people that shall say, the burden of Yahweh. Oh, you can't keep them law. That's a burden to you, boy. No, the Jesus came and took it all away. He nailed 613 of them suckers right to the cross, the old rugged cross, got them 613 rusted nails in there because they're a burden to keep. Jesus forgave you everything. You ain't got to do nothing but, eat pork and bacon, with your eggs, and you'll be fine. Craziness. The burden of Yahweh. I will even punish that man and his house. Thus shall ye say, every one to his neighbor and every one to his brother, what hath the Father answered? And what hath the Father spoken? And the burden of the Father shall ye mention no more. You're going to love the laws. You're not going to mention it as a burden. These bring peace. They'll bring worldwide peace. We'll never have wars again if everyone kept the laws and the commandments. There'd be no war. There'd be no fighting between neighbors, nor fighting between husbands and wife or children. For every man's word shall be his burden. For ye have perverted the words of the living Father, of the Father of hosts, Father Yahweh. Thus shalt thou say to the prophet, what hath the Father answered thee? And what hath the Father spoken? But since ye say, the burden of the Father, therefore thus says Yahweh, because ye say this word, the burden of Yahweh, and I have sent unto you, saying, ye shall not say the burden of Yahweh, you shall not say the laws of Yahweh are a burden. Therefore, behold, even I will utterly forget you, and I will forsake you, and the city that I gave you and your fathers, and cast you out of my presence. Doesn't that sound like our king saying, hey, I never knew you. Get away from me, man. You who practice lawlessness. I never knew you. And yet people are out there trying to say, oh, once saved, always saved. Yeah, really? The same ones are saying that these laws are a burden, that you can't keep them. If you do, you're denying our king. You're right. Yeremiyah 23:40. And I will bring an everlasting reproach among you. Look at that word reproach. It ain't too cool. And a perpetual shame. Perpetual, okay? They try to say that there's nothing perpetual. There's no perpetual motion. Our Father said there's going to be a perpetual shame. He's proven science wrong, which shall not be forgotten. So with that, my friends, we got through Yeremiyah chapter 23. I hope to be able to bring out here Ezekiel, I think it's 34 or 36. But it also speaks about these lying preachers and such. I hope you're enjoying the feast, and I pray that we're all repenting, pray for one another, and pray for judgment.